Welcome back to A Slice of News, where I cut you off a slice of news. A couple days ago, the president posted an AI image of himself to his Truth Social account of him dressed in robes, touching a man in a bed while his hands are glowing, while he's surrounded by what I can only assume are his followers, looking up to him in reverence, with the American flag in the background, with bald eagles flying, jets in the sky, and the Statue of Liberty and Lincoln Memorial behind him, and above him what I can only assume is supposed to be the ghosts of dead soldiers. The whole thing was very strange. Not to mention it was posted without any sort of caption or explanation as to what exactly it was supposed to convey or mean, but it didn't take people very long to decide they thought they could tell what it was supposed to convey. The robes he was wearing in this AI image looked a little bit too similar to ones Jesus is usually depicted as wearing. His hand being laid upon the laying down man, glowing with some sort of mystical seeming light, seemed a little bit too similar to the way miraculous healing would be depicted. Basically, a lot of Christians felt that this was the president trying to depict himself as Jesus, and they found that to be highly offensive. They felt like in the image he was depicting himself as replacing Jesus, and some said it was more than blasphemy, it was an antichrist spirit. As one reporter for the Daily Wire said, quote, "I don't know if the president thought he was being funny, or if he is under the influence of some substance, or what possible explanation he could have for this outrageous blasphemy. But he needs to take this down immediately and ask for the forgiveness from the American people and then from God." One Christian influencer put it very succinctly and just said, "God, we might have made a mistake and accidentally elected the Antichrist. Send help." To say those on the Christian side were pretty upset by this image is an understatement. I think understandably they were pretty unhappy with it, and with the president for having posted it in the first place. This really did look like the president was trying to elevate himself to the point of a holy figure, comparing himself at least analogous to their most holy figure. It was definitely a bad look for Donnie, especially since the evangelical Christians are pretty much the only people who still like him at this point. So that is one bridge he sorely cannot afford to burn. So unsurprisingly, amid that controversy and uproar, the image was pretty swiftly deleted, but the damage it caused was largely already done. And unsurprisingly, as fast as the image went down, the defenses for it went up. Vice President J.D. Vance came out to say that the image was a joke. Of course he took it down, because he realized that a lot of people weren't understanding his humor, he was quoted as saying. "I may not be a comedy expert, but I'm fairly sure that jokes are supposed to be funny, and I don't think anybody was laughing here." The president himself tried to defend it, saying, "I thought it was me as a doctor, and it had to do with the Red Cross, and only the fake news could come up with that. I make people a lot better." Now, I don't know what sort of doctors someone at his level has, or what doctors the president has seen, but I do not know of any doctors that dress in white and red robes who have hands with light emanating from them that they lay upon you to heal you. Maybe rich people doctors are on a whole other level us regular folk just don't even recognize, though somehow I doubt it. And where he got the whole thing about the Red Cross, I'll never know. There's absolutely nothing there that would lead you to even associate the Red Cross with anything in that image. That's an absolutely unbelievably weak defense, and I don't know of anyone who would actually fall for that. To say, "Oh, that was me as a doctor for the Red Cross," even though I look nothing like a doctor and there's nothing in here that looks like the Red Cross. But I think that's the part about this AI Jesus Trump image that gets me the most. Not the image itself. There have been numerous images of the president made by AI where he's a king, or he's a big, or riding a horse like a great general, or being embraced by Jesus. So him sharing an image where he's basically literally Jesus seems very much on brand for him, since this is a man who is so narcissistic and so full of himself that of course he thinks himself a literal god. To me, the substance of the image was not surprising or shocking at all, nor was just how fast many came out to denounce it and decry it. Since if one were of the faithful, I can absolutely see how that image would deeply disturb and bother you. What I think surprised me was just how many and how quickly many came out to defend it. As Trump likes to portray himself as a godly man, mostly to court the deeply religious members of his base. You'd think him publicly displaying an image of him as a literal God-man would be one step too far for all of them, that this would be the impetus for his entire religious base to abandon him, since he's clearly shown just how performative his adherence to their belief system is, and how he's willing to put himself above, or at least on the same level, to an entity that in this faith there cannot be anyone above or on the same level to. And oh, that's actually him as a doctor for the Red Cross, or oh, it's really all just a joke. Maybe you just don't get it. Really shouldn't cut it for any of them. If anything, it really looks like the president mocking their faith and saying that he is as important, maybe even more important, than their most important figure. And while many were very vocal about their displeasure with it and how offensive it was to them, many more seemed to just be fine with it. Even though that image and publicly posting it for everyone to see on his official Truth Social account, by all accounts, should be a line too far for these people who claim to be deeply devout and all about their Christian faith. I can't even imagine the uproar they would have been if, President Biden had publicly put on the official White House Twitter a picture of him as Jesus healing a sick man, or President Obama depicting himself as anything even remotely Christ-like. They'd say it was an affront to their Christian faith, and how dare he mock their beliefs and their Savior. In those cases, this would be indefensible and undeniable. There would be absolutely no way that they could spin it or make it acceptable, but somehow that's exactly what they're doing in real time. If it wouldn't be acceptable for an Obama or a Biden to do it, it shouldn't be acceptable for anyone, period. While selective outrage is certainly nothing new from the Trump fans, and the rules seeming to only apply to the people they don't like is certainly something we've seen many times before. This is the kind of thing that I really would have thought would move the needle at least a little bit more with the devout Christians that make up the majority of his base. There's this real sense that if this doesn't do it, literally nothing will. At this point, he could probably post an image of him literally as God with Jesus next to him and everything, and they would say it was just him displaying his deeply held Christian faith and his devotion to God, not his attempt to usurp him. I suppose, if anything, it really shows how tight the iron grip he has on his followers truly is. I've really tried to understand it from their perspective, but trying to understand the inner workings of the MAGA mind really just seemed to give me a headache and leave me with no more answers than when I started. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised they defend even this, but also maybe what I'm feeling is not surprise, but disappointment. Disappointment at the fact that this really seems to be snuffing out the last spark of hope that there was any way that they could see the error of their ways and see just how bad Donald Trump truly is. If they could see him showing off an image of him essentially usurping the role of their Lord and Savior, and not immediately say, okay, that's it, I cannot stand behind this man one moment more, there really is no saving them. And it really paints a grim picture for the future of our country, since these people will still be of the same mindset long after he's gone. These people vote, and they do not miss an election. If there is any light at the end of this dark tunnel, it may only be that with just how badly things like the Iran conflict are going for the president, there's a very good chance that his party is poised to lose really badly in this upcoming midterm election. And once the Democrats seize their power back, the president is going to be greatly hampered in his agenda and ambitions until the end of his term, whenever that may come. And while many may still defend him in light of this messianic Trump image, it did cost them a lot of support, and that support is not going to suddenly come right back. For them, the mask slipped, and they saw him for the fake Christian that he's always been, and they will never see him the same way again, and he has lost their support, full stop. Why the president thought it would be a good idea to post this image, especially in light of what it could at least theoretically cost him in terms of support from his base, I think we will probably never know. Maybe there was no real thought at all. He just thought he looked really good and wanted everyone to see it. Since I suppose in his mind that's exactly how he sees himself. He doesn't worship God. In his mind, he is God, and would very much like his faithful to treat him like one. Posting the image was certainly ill-advised, but I also have no doubt that even if he was advised against doing so, he would have done so anyway, because that's just the kind of guy he is. Maybe that's why his backpedaling explanation was so weak, because in reality, he doesn't really think he should have to. He knows what it looks like, and he's not ashamed of that, even if he very much should be. While this image seems to have led a lot of his followers to come to their senses, unfortunately, far too many of them have not, and apparently simply cannot be made to, short of the actual Jesus to come back and literally decry it himself personally. Though they're so deep in for him that it's very possible that they would say, actually, Trump is the real Messiah now, because it seems to them he practically is. Alright guys, that'll be it for this episode of A Slice of News. I've been your host, Mr. Slice. Until next time, I'll catch you on another Slice of News. Don't forget to rate the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you find it.